All right, we are live. Greetings, fellow traders. I'm gonna get this tweeted out for everybody so everybody can join in. 1 second. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Oh, good. Well, I hope everybody had a great trading day today. So, wow, what a market these last couple days, huh? So, pretty amazing stuff. So, let's get started here today. Basically, we're going to be concluding this series on day trading when big money moves, and today we're going to be talking about option activity. So, a cool conclusion to this series. Before we get started, though, everything we're going to talk about is for educational purposes only and not investment advice. So, please take a moment to review this disclaimer. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, well, let's check and see where we left off with the market today. So, pretty amazing week, pretty amazing month so far. We finished down 137 points today. That puts the monthly chart pretty rough right here. It's actually approaching its mid Bollinger Band right now. Off of the shooting star from last month, and now a big upper shadow, a big red candle so far on this month. So tomorrow, Friday, is the last day of February 2020. So, or last trading day rather. So we shall see what they have in store for the month. Obviously, it'll be really hard for it to go green in 1 day. But we saw in 3 days, it really, 3-4 days, it really turned into, well, actually 6 red days in a row, turned into this. So let's take a look at the weekly chart. So the weekly chart tells us a lot, right? So this is a huge weekly candle, right? The range of this candle of this week is 282 points. I don't think we've seen a weekly candle that big. We had 192 back in December of 2018. We had another one here was 178 points, right? So seeing a huge candle like this is pretty rare. Even this candle right here was 230 points, and we beat that by quite a bit, by 50 points so far. This is a huge red candle. Okay, so it really shows the what was going on here really in the market, right? So it's looking back, right, we can see we pushed to all-time highs. Right, and things everybody was like saying, "Oh, it's really toppy up here," and it turns out it really was. Right, so and amazingly, we had some bearish divergence here on the RSI too, kind of leading into it. Just a note there on the bearish divergence front of things. But pretty key levels have been surpassed, right? We took out this support level here. Remember talking about this? Then even today, or just I think it was today. Good grief, we were because that was 3104, so to 2979. So basically, we were at the 30 moving average on the weekly, and let's see if they could try to climb back above it, because that's a really nasty close over the week. That really changes the composure of the whole market kind of going forward. Now, S&P futures are, we'll take a look at those in a little bit. S&P futures are, wow, I've got somebody watch us, are green right now, so we'll see if they can hold green overnight. So we might get a little relief bounce into tomorrow. It was quite a bearish close on the daily chart. One of the things that we can see, let's go to the daily. Just so many major levels were taken out in such a short amount of time, and that's why shorts are just, you take the stairs up and literally you take the elevator down. In this case, they took the stairs up and they just jumped right off, right? So it was pretty interesting what we saw. We had the micro trend line up here. We broke down below here. Here was your first trend box, and we closed below that here with increasing volume, which we saw on the SPY and on the S&P futures. You can't see volume on the SPX, but that was kind of the first warning. That was a Friday, right? And then we wake up on Monday to a huge gap down. So just showing that continuation movement right there. And then we broke below this trend line. And then we had a huge momentum move through that level. That was the key indicator right there on Tuesday for this big range move right here. It was a 128 point day on that candle. And, we gapped up a little bit, right? And then once we flushed and they gave up, I think it was like 30, 40 points right there, and we pushed through those lows, that was the next test to see if it would, flush lower. And that's what happens when you go short, right? So anyway, amazing stuff right here. This has just been a very amazing pullback. And pretty controllable, right? As long as you don't have long positions on or holding tight on it, and if you do, right, and generally the market is probably would eventually turn up, right? But when you're a tactical day trader and or really tactical with your swings, right, to get out of the way when you close under a lot of key levels. So that's one of the big things right there. But that was a huge day, a huge push down. We broke down below the cloud, and that brought us right to the macro upper trend line. Right? This trend line was all the way from back in December, right? Wow, all the way from December of 2018, this trend line was holding up right here, and it looked like we might get a relief bounce off of it yesterday, and we did a little bit. We pushed up, and it came back to the climb, gave you an upper shadow right now, there, and then we closed below that trend line again, and then today gave you a confirmation candle certainly below there, just to show this is really a big change in the market. So it's been impressive, guys. We're experiencing history here, some of the biggest weeks that we've seen really ever, and so pretty amazing stuff. And so today we closed below the 200-day moving average, which looked like it was going to be a little bit of support to it, held as a hammer, and then came back down and finished really at its lows today. So pretty amazing move. Now, we are seeing everything's a little bit oversold here on the RSI. Now, they could stay oversold for a long time, but we may see a little bit of relief bounce here. But let's take a look at the price action day, then we'll look at the futures. So price action day was pretty complex. We gapped down, had a little bit of a fake breakdown right here, and then we finally broke down off of that inside 15. Then you got a little hammer right here, which brought you back up to the 15 orb. And then it got to the 15 orb high, got a couple upper shadows right here. Then it looks like, okay, we're going to break down again. So it kind of pushes down here, and then nope, gives you another push up here. It's like, okay, they're going to rally up, fill the gap. We were only down like 20 points. If they could move up that much, and it was like, a good, 100-point move essentially from the lows. And then, then we end up chopping around here and then work our way back down, and they push it down into the close. So pretty wild stuff right there today and this last week. But it's been fun, right? If you catch your right setups, you can catch some nice moves on it. And so one of the things I just kind of want to put out there is like, one, if you're not good at shorting, don't worry about it, right? Eventually, things will stabilize, and we'll get some good up moves and be able to trade those to the long side. But when these things are going like this, and you have these nasty candles and this nasty momentum facing you here, like on the weekly chart, right, and on the daily chart, and you have all this momentum to the downside, don't try to force like trying to buy the dip. It's okay to stand out of the way, right? You don't have to be like, oh, if I had caught this, I'd be up like $2 million. If I was, it's okay if you didn't catch, the big short on that, right? And you don't have to chase it, right? Because even candles like this, it's not, folks, it's like the way shorts go, and sometimes here it pushed really to the lows, and if the futures end up pushing up, don't worry about it if it gaps up tomorrow, right? So it's just trade what trade your setups, and and kind of go from there. But one thing that we do know is that the composure has changed and that we've been bearish, and so it's important to look for bearish setups intraday. And so eventually they'll try to rally, and we look for key levels for it to rally, and then we go from there, right? So we still have an open gap below right here. We've got these lows here back in October, which could potentially be tested. 2860 area. It got here really quickly, so there's no reason to say that it couldn't try to to work itself lower as well. So just a little something to keep in mind there. So let's take a look here at the S&P futures and see what they're doing this evening. Before we do that, though, let's take a look at the 5-minute chart. These are the levels that we provide to our members before each open, and you can see how important they are, right, when we look at these. So we had some key gap levels right here that were tested today, right? We had a one push to the highs, right, a little bit of a breakdown right here, and then we had another push up here which couldn't break above those highs, so basically a little double top right here, and then it worked its way down. Then we got into this, all these levels right here, how tight they were, so we spent some time in those levels, and then once we broke down below there, see this candle right here, this one projected a potential move to a lower level right there, and we got there at the end of the day. So filled a closing gap right there, a little open gap below. We'll see where we end up there. But very, very important stuff. So, and then you draw your trend lines intraday too. So this is just whether if you're an active day trader, right, you want to be able to get your trend lines up here, right? Once you break above these levels, confirm, you get a little move up, right? And then you have your trend line right here, right? Here's your high, there's your move, you break down low, you get a little move down there, right? You move your trend line here, you break above that, it gives a move up, right? Move your trend line here, put that over here, okay, give your pivot right here's your trend box right here, you break below that, you get your down move, right? You get your trend line here, don't really close above it with any strength, right? So it continues its way down and then ends up getting to lower lows, and so you can shift your trend line over here, right, a little bit lower, and then continues to do its thing as we get lower and lower and lower. So again, that's just active day trading and using your trend lines intraday. So good. All right, well, let's take a look at the S&P futures just because it is interesting. This has definitely been some of the more interesting evenings we've seen, over the last couple nights. So let's take a look here what we've got. So here you can see the S&P futures. We were working down in this channel here from back yonder, right? From back on the 25th. We've kind of been hanging around this channel, down at the channel. Look at that, up to the top of the channel. Pretty amazing stuff, right? How it gets to the bottom of the channel and bounces. And then, hits, forms a fresh trend line right here. And now we're back at the lows again. So this was a big, sharp move down here towards the end of the day. So we can get a trend line on that. Key point, here's your low, there's your levels. And here we are range bound this evening. So let's see how we hold tonight. Let's see if we can hold these prior levels here. Here's a prior old 15 orbit there. It's just an example we did. And this is actually a prior S&P future all-time high. Amazing how it's just kind of hanging at this level. This is one that we have on here, but it's been testing this level a little bit for a while. So we'll see. I mean, if it comes back down and pushes even lower, right, we've got a trend line here it could test. If not, it starts to break above these levels right here. We may see a test of this upward trend line right here, but lots of movement in the futures here after hours, and then of course during the day too. So definitely good stuff to keep an eye on. Okay, good. So now that we're caught up on that, let's continue our discussion on day trading when big money moves with option activity. So pretty simple concept here, guys. This is a lot like the volume concept, but it's a tool we really don't have a lot like on our regular charts, right? A lot of times you need to go outside the box to get this information. But really, it's when you can see option activity on a particular stock, especially unusual option activity on a stock, it gives you something that you want to take notice of, right? So one of the ways, there's a couple ways that you can do it, right? So in the in Thinkorswim, let me pull up the Thinkorswim chart for you guys here. 1 second. All right, let me get a clean chart up here for everybody. 1 sec. Let me switch over to this is the Thinkorswim desktop right here. So one of the things you can see here, if we go down to the bottom of the Thinkorswim watch list panel right here on the side, the side panel, we can pull up a little thing called Trade Flash, right? So Trade Flash is a really interesting tool, and it gives you a clue into option activity during the day, and it kind of gives you a nice view of everything that is. Whoa, that kind of threw that up there. Give me 1 second. Let me stretch this down a little bit here so you guys can see it a little better. So one of the cool things it does, this gives you very interesting information intraday on option activity, on kind of block activity or big bulk trades, and it really shows you some very interesting things that are occurring during the day to kind of clue you into the things that are happening in the market, right? So if we just kind of scroll down here, you can see a couple different things here. It just gives you basic information. Beyond's up. But here you can see they give you delta trades, right? You can see like there's a big delta trade here. So they sold 2,100 of the March puts for 176 for deltas, right? To try to balance their accounts out, things like that. But it gives you ideas, for different trades that are going on. So you see delta trades. So lots of delta trades here, but there's some other things that kind of pop up. Let's see. So large equity trade, things like this. You can see if they're buying so GDX, right? So the intermarket sweeps, things like that. Let's see. So large futures trade, you could see big delta trade. So here's calls on WMB, right? So you can see these throughout the day as these come in. So they're definitely good things to kind of pay attention to, especially if they're a little bit farther dated. So here you can see, CVS had some activity right here. So they bought 7,300 and sold 7,300 of these calls right here. So it looks like they're putting on a call spread. Things like that. So you have a big delta trade here on the QQQs. You can see they bought 3,000 of these here. So this type of activity is something to kind of get used to. Now you can get overwhelmed by it when it comes through, but oh wow, they're buying Qs, so let me go buy the Qs, right? Or they're buying UNP, so let me go buy in UNP. That's not really the technique there. The technique is to kind of think about it and try to understand what type of activity is going on. Now this isn't the only tool that's out there, right? There's other tools that are out there to track market activity or option activity. A lot of them are pay for services. But one that's out there that's pretty cool, that's free, is the bar chart unusual options activity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste that in the chat box here, and it's just a cool little tool that you can basically look daily. If you subscribe to their thing, it's you can get prior days activity and things like that. But at the end of the day, you can sign up for their free emails and just kind of see some different things that are going on there. And I wish I could pull it up through my broadcaster to actually see what's on there. And kind of show some examples, but I really can't. But just for an example, let's just say, so there was some put activity today, some unusual put activity on Macys. Okay, on the March Macys expiration. So let's pull up Macys right here. So just as an example, so we go to Macys. Okay, and we go to the trade window here in Thinkorswim. And let me just make sure you guys can see that okay. Yeah, so we go to the trade window here in Thinkorswim, and let's go to March. So we could see that March. In fact, if we pull up Trade Flash, it might even come up in here. So there we go. So this did have 20. This is showing 26,000. And this isn't even all, right? This is the 11 puts. But here, yeah. So here you go. You got the 11 puts right here. You can see about 26,000 right here, and they also sold 26,000 too. So okay, so kind of an interesting little deal right there. So it's like they bought some and they sold some, but and these. That's why sometimes you have to take some option activity with a grain of salt, right? So or at least understand what they're doing. I like how this one showed that there was both bullish and bearish activity. They just basically bought. They sold these for 12 cents and they bought them back for 13. So they basically got in and out. But what it does is that there's a lot of manipulation that's out there in the option market, right? And so some big, hedge funds, right? They can spend, whatever the case is, $300,000, for something, and to try to manipulate, the options that are out there. Right? So you can see here the 11 puts. Let's see, yeah, so 56,000 shares or 56,000 contracts traded today versus 151 open interest, right? And so that's one thing you can look at. Oh wow, these guys are really bearish on it. They bought 56,000 puts, but until you can actually dig into it and see what they were actually doing, they actually bought it and sold it for basically it looks like a minor loss right here, and for a penny loss on it, right? So that's the idea. And but when you see this stuff, and as long as you can determine what it is, you can get some sentiment in terms of what the big money's doing, right? And so at this point, we probably wouldn't see any open interest tomorrow in the 11s because they bought it and sold it. So, but today it looks like there's a heavy volume here on the put side of it. So, so that's just something to kind of keep an eye on, and to definitely try to see what's happening. Now, sometimes it is meaningful. Sometimes they don't buy it and then sell it right away, and it gives you some clues into what the big money's thinking, what the big money's doing. And if you can catch that, it's not that you necessarily want to trade it instantly. Although if it's hot and it's really moving right now, especially if it's a weekly expiration, you can look for an intraday setup to trade along with it to try to see if the big money is really going in on some calls, like on Netflix intraday, right? You can look for a setup on Netflix. So if some call sweeps come in early in the morning on Netflix, here, let's go back to our regular chart right here. Okay, so if some calls come in on Netflix, say like in the morning, big heavy call activity, you can see, let's say some call sweeps came in right here. We don't necessarily want to buy until you have a setup, right? So you can buy your a bear flag breakout on this one. You got a nice candle here that breaks out, good increasing volume, and you get a nice trade to the upside on Netflix. And so these are just some of the techniques that you can use to see what big money is doing. So if you have access to those tools, if you have that free bar charts tool that I just sent out there, you can see when call activity and call flow is updated, and then you can even plug it into once you see it happen here, you can plug it in the trade flash and see if it's like an in and an out or whatever the case is to see. But if it's really bullish, then you might want to take notice of it to see if you can find a setup, especially if it's farther dated. If it's the weeklies, they might be day trading just like we are, or they could be gearing up for something, right? That's out there. So let's just take a look at an example of a recent one, right? So Guild. So if we go back to Guild here and we go to the daily chart, here we go. Okay, so Guild. So actually, way back in the day, Matthew, if you're out there, whoa, what did I do here? Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. Maximize that back out here. So here's the weekly chart. Here's the daily chart. So way back in, I think it was January, there was some major call activity going on in Guild, right? And I can't remember if it was before or after earnings, but some big call activity that was like pretty outdated on it, right? And so when you start seeing this stuff, you just kind of take notice. It's not necessarily going to happen right away, right? The big money's got time to wait and they're patient, right? And that's kind of the thing right there. So, if they held it through earnings, like great, it went up on earnings, it might have made some money, might have sold some profit right there. And then when things started really getting to go up, right, that was where they really started to capitalize and kind of see, oh, that's why they bought all those calls, right? So, but Guild also, even on these days, like where we had this big volume coming in here too, remember the volume even itself was a good indicator with Guild, but once we had this candle right here that kind of popped out of nowhere with some big volume, and there was some good option activity, some good, even unusual option activity on it, that's one of those things that kind of gets you noticing, like, okay, all right, the candle's good, the candle's strong, we broke out of over a congestion zone right here, we have some big volume on this thing, and there was heavy call activity on it. So, you could look to do a speculative swing on it to try to follow that money, and then boom, you got this huge gap up the next day, and as a retail trader, you can really capitalize on that in the next day, right? But then it had a huge pullback the next day, and that's pretty painful, right? And so we want to make sure that we have our stops up here and can capitalize on a trade like this. So once it gave that push right there and your stops are good, you're good, right? And so again, I think there's even some more call activity in here too, and you got that huge gap up on on Gilead on their news, basically of trying to come up with some coronavirus type cures. And then there was even some call activity recently on mRNA, right? So mRNA was interesting too because one, they had their bullish. Coronavirus cure type stuff too, but they also had earnings coming up too. So sometimes you have to kind of discern, okay, from it's like, okay, is this earnings activity or is this some other stuff that's going on too? So what was really interesting after earnings is that you got a huge gap up too, not only on the earnings. In fact, the earnings I think were pretty bad, but you got a huge gap up on it as well because of their activity for coronavirus cure type stuff. So anyway, pretty amazing moves right here. And in fact, this gap up was pretty incredible. And now look at like the hugely bearish engulfing candle right here on Moderna. It was a really incredible move today. 12 points for Moderna was huge, and then kind of came back down, held its ADMA, and we'll see what it's got going forward. But it's a good tool to use to be able to track it. But again, you don't have to rely on it 100%, just like you won't rely on anything 100%. But it's a good thing to give information to see what's going on in the market and to see what's going on in a stock. So there we go. So that's the conclusion there for when big money moves with option activity today. And it was a fun series this week, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And at this point, if anybody has any questions or chart requests, please feel free to plug those in the chat window, and we'll get through as many as we can. Try to wrap up as early as possible so we can get a great night's sleep to finish this week off on a Friday for another great trading day. So yeah, so great stuff. And don't forget, tomorrow is Friday, which means it's option expiration day. So be careful if you're trading this week's expirations, if you're trading the weeklies, because you don't want to get assigned unless it's part of your trading plan, right? So if trading next week's can still be okay on a good setup intraday. So good stuff. All right. So I didn't get any emails from Shirley today. And Shirley, if you're watching, don't forget too that it's okay, to stand to the side and all that stuff. I know Shirley always comes up with great bullish ideas. It's really, really hard to switch scripts sometimes and switch to the bullish side, bearish side, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So anyway, good stuff. Dimitri, yeah, hey, Beyond, let's take a look. Let's see how Beyond's doing. So thanks for tuning in, man. So BYND. Okay, so BYND, we've been talking about this one for several days right here. Big, cup and handle pattern here, right? Lots of, kind of bull flaggish type stuff going on all over the place. Right, we've drawn lines all over. But the big thing was tonight. So we had earnings tonight after hours, and we'll see if we get any follow through on that tomorrow. But right now, Beyond, I think they had an earnings miss, but a revenue beat. And so for a little bit it was up, and now it's kind of drifting down after the close. So keep an eye on Beyond right here. It's down to 95 right now. So 95 takes it basically to here. There's an open gap that it could test tomorrow if it stays in those levels. If not, I don't expect to see any sort of big gap and go to the downside, unless the market is really weak too, again. But it could be a good spot for a reversal too. So something to keep an eye on too if we're not getting below any major pivots. Good stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I'm Beyond. Matthew, what's going on? There you go. Good evening. Thanks for tuning in, man. Jay, what's happening? Piton, let's take a look. Yeah, so Piton had some good bullish moves today, but it was facing a bearish market, right? So let's take a look and see. Wow, this thing is really popping up a lot on me today. But so kind of came to them, but had a really, really nice reversal today. Starting to look pretty strong. Came back down. Couldn't get over the 15 orb today. It's kind of chopping after the close here, but it did give a nice lower shadow. And looks like it could be trying to get a little bit higher to try to get over the cloud in a couple levels, but it's got a lot of work to do ahead. It's got some pedaling to do to get up, right? So definitely something to keep an eye on there. Ernesto, what's going on? Good evening. Hope you're doing great, man. Seneca, whoop whoop. Triple M. Oh man, I know everything is tough today. All these charts are really rough. A lot of them are super bearish, and we just kind of have to just keep an eye on it and see what we have in store for tomorrow. Gosh, the futures all over the place. We were up 20 a little bit ago. Now we're back to flat again. This is just what happens when the volatility is so high, like it's been. So Triple M got an upgrade this morning, on their the masks, manufacturing. In fact, the White House came out today and said they're going to possibly be invoking the Defense Act to put more funds to even private companies to help out with the coronavirus in the United States. So this could be a company that starts to get some money in that. And they tried to push up. They had an inside day yesterday, and they came right back down with an upper shadow, so with some increased volume too. So it's like, oh boy, that type of thing. So we are seeing some bullish divergence here on the daily chart, right between these lows. But again, it's going to take some work for it to get above it. It has to definitely get over today's highs, right, to get going again. So, Michael, what's going on? Good day today, man. IBIO, let's take a look. IBIO. Wow, look at this one. Penny stock. Look at this. This is cheaper than most of the options that we trade. But huge day today for 197 million shares traded and a big breakout candle right there today. So it's got a little bit of work to do. It's right over this. It couldn't get over that little pivot guy right there. But next level up could be $1.40. This could be an interesting one to explore, especially on this volume right here. So keep an eye on that one for sure. Was there any after hours activity on it too? Oh yeah, look at that drifting up. Oh, he's already up to $1.49 up there. Wow. So yeah, this is gonna be a wild one to keep an eye on tomorrow. I can't put it on the list because we don't do options on it, but definitely one to keep an eye on there on iBio. Nice. GHSI. GHSI. Wow, another breakout candle on this. Another penny stock breakout one on this one. Wow, yeah, and that's up after hours too. So any of these ones, I guess, that are helping out with some Corona stuff are doing good. Caterpillar, kitty cat. Let's take a look. Wow, gosh, there's so many bearish charts here. So look at this one. Did it fill this? It didn't quite fill the gap today. So if it wants to get some downside movement, Caterpillar is a good one to look on the downside for tomorrow too, if the market continues to be weak. So let me actually put that on the Friday radar for tomorrow. There's so much weak stuff, but Caterpillar is definitely nasty. I'm going to put iBio on the on the long list just for fun, just because it's basically an option in itself, right? So Tesla, let's take a look. Not cat Tesla, Tesla. Right, so Tesla, rough candle yesterday, right? So you can see the 8 moving average was curling over up here, right? So you had that upper shadow yesterday and got a nice gap to the downside. And then today, look at that 70-point candle today. So that would have been an awesome awesome overnight on Tesla. Now, again, it's weak again. We got a gap below. It is kind of right at that gap level right there, so it might be holding some gap support. But generally, it's got a lot of downward momentum right now, and this market is overall pretty sketchy, so we'll see what they have in store for tomorrow on this one for sure. Microsoft kind of started things down on the Dow yesterday as they guided down after saying Corona is going to affect them and stuff like that too. So nasty candle today, huge volume for Microsoft to push down below its prior macro channel right here, and is kind of dealing with the cloud as we possibly try to look for some support levels below. Great stuff, great day today, man. Jay, yeah, let's take a look. Zoom. So Zoom is one of the Corona go-to stocks right here. So it doesn't close well, right? It gives you a lot of these upper shadows and all that stuff, but intraday it does give some interesting moves. You got to watch out for the spreads on it because it moves fast, but those spreads can be pretty dangerous because if it does pull back on you really quickly, it can hurt, right? Because today it gave was a quick move up right there, but look at that candle right there. I was like, boom, fast pullback on that one. So you got to move those stops up quicker, just take profit. It's always important. Excuse me. It's always important to pay attention to your ATRs during the day. If you can, keep a daily chart up and just kind of look at the average range of your candles, right? So when it finally pushes the high, right, it already moved 10 points, right? This candle right here was 12 points. This candle right here was a big one right there, 11 points. So a 10-point day is big. So if you're going long on this thing intraday or at the morning, and you've already moved about 10 points to the upside, not a bad place to consider moving stops up or to take profit, right? Because these, it could move another 20, but why risk, a 5-point pullback when you're up? So that's just something to consider right there. So, but yeah, it's definitely been strong and continuing to push to highs as more people use Zoom instead of meeting with each other in person. So, Godwin, what's going on? Netflix has been holding up relatively well. Good thing to keep in mind when we start our next uptrend. Oh, absolutely, yeah. And Netflix is one we had on the game plan yesterday too, just because of the relative bullishness that it had. Right now, it gapped down, but it gave a huge push at the open today for another move. And I think one of the reasons is, just basically if people are confined to the house, right, they're probably going to watch more Netflix, right? That's kind of the idea. But again, very, very similar to Zoom right there. You had that big move in the upside and then nasty little pullbacks right there. So yeah, definitely relative strength. It's hanging out really nicely. It's one of the only ones that are out there that's basically above its 50-day moving average and its 200-day moving average. So some relative strength here in Netflix is just really, really nasty candles during the day. So something to keep a look at there. But yeah, great thinking on that one. Heather, good evening. Hope you're doing great. There's that link to the bar charts right there. Cool one. What's going on? Hey, ho hi. Okay, so what is the best 55 EMA or 200 EMA for long? And please give your thoughts. So it's tough. I think these are just simple moving averages here on your daily chart. right? And they just give you just a clue, right? I mean, moving averages don't necessarily do anything, right? They're just an average of what the price actually is. Although they do something. If you guys were here when Brian Shannon was on CMT, he did a great job. He just basically talked about it. He's like, yeah, they're points of interest. We talked about it too, that they're areas of interest as well, because algos do trade off and people do trade off them, right? So if everybody thinks this is going to be bullish right here and everybody starts to go bullish on it, right, then you get a bullish move, right? So, but in general, it gives you good context. Really, it's kind of just the shape of it and the formation of it just kind of gives you, some confidence. If you're over the 50 and you're over the 200, right? Then you look for, you tend to look for, keep a bullish sentiment, right? So that's the idea. Right? We've talked about that with our ribbons and all that stuff. So, but pretty interesting stuff, right? If you get over here, you can see what happened here. If you just kind of go back with Netflix, the 50 is pretty important, right? Once you get above it, bullishly, right? It's a good place to just kind of be like, okay, well, as long as I hold the 50, I'm, generally pretty good on it, right? And so once you get below it, then just kind of get out of the way, right? And you can even look to short, right? Look for short. So then you get over the 50 again, you get a nice move up, and then you get below, you look to get out, and then you're below it here, you're out. Then you get above the 50 again, you look to go up. So you can see here how important the 50 is. So I think just in general for, kind of medium term investing, or a little bit longer term swing type stuff, like 5-6 months out, I think the 50 is a very, very valuable tool. So for sure. Sumit, what's going on? Yeah, Dell. So Dell I heard it on the news a little bit today. I can't remember. I don't know I don't really trade this one, but I can't remember what it had. Oh, it must have been earnings. Let's take a look here. So let's see. 227 after the close. Okay, so yes, they must have been gearing up for it and giving some announcements and things like that today. So yeah, earnings down. It's a little bit down here after hours. Again, it's interesting that this thing's even a stock really anymore, but yeah, so just kind of moving around a little bit, and been pretty bearish and it's down afterwards. So definitely downtrending. So keep an eye on that for a downside move if it pushes below today's lows, for sure. And then AMC, yeah, I think AMC had earnings as well. So yeah, let's see. Not a lot of folks going out to the movies, right? If there's viruses going around. So let's see how it behaved after hours. This one's actually up a little bit, so that's good. And it gave you a nice hammer today. And some good volume the last couple days too. So see if it can push above today's highs and give you a move up to the cloud, or something like that. See if it gaps up a little bit too and gives you a little gap and go on it. But tough one to trade with options. Really kind of rare, one of the rare ones. But yeah, good stuff after hours there, man. Yo-Yo-Mo, what's going on? GDX and Guild. I'd say Guild, sometimes people are typing me about Guild a lot today, and it's like Guild is like gold, or it was for a little bit there. But GDX, so amazing stuff right here, guys. So we've seen some really interesting behavior, right? So the market was down today, and and GDX was down too. Normally you see kind of an inverse relationship between there and the market and the miners and gold. And, so GDX had a really nasty candle today. It's like everybody who was loading up on it to gear up for volatility was like, okay, this is great, and then they decided to dump it, right? So you could kind of theorize. It's like, all right, well, why, would something like gold hold up, but GDX just get crushed? And well, maybe just the actual value of gold, is good as a resource, but the miners maybe not so much, because if there's a big virus going out, who's gonna maybe they won't be able to go out and mine stuff. I don't know. It's kind of just a loose theory right there. But yeah, they did get crushed today, so something to look at there. And of course you got Guild. Right, we just looked at this with some option activity and all that stuff too. This got crushed today as well, but it gave a nice move up, right? So just a hit and run type formation right here, as it they loaded up on it and they might have dumped it today. I mean, we got a lot of big volume here too. So, and don't forget, guys, that the big money, is kind of as a conclusion to that conversation. The big money, when you see like huge volume coming up at tops like this, that's where the big money's getting out. They're like, okay, this is good, we're good, right? And you get a huge volume up there, and then folks are like, oh, it's way at the highs, let me try to get it here, and the big money's already out. So it's kind of something like that too. So Tracy, what's going on? Good evening. Thanks for tuning in. Let's take a look. So we got LK. Okay, hold it. Amazing how this one is holding in there, right? So this is a Chinese coffee company, and like a Starbucks of China, and they're hanging in there really through this whole thing. These are the ones you'd think that would get a really massive down. It did get some big down moves, but it had a couple nice bounces off the cloud here, pushed down a little bit today, but nice lower shadow today, and almost finished green. So definitely want to keep an eye on here. It closed above the 50-day moving average for it, so that could be an interesting one as well, especially if the market gets strong. And keep a look at Boeing too. Boeing, guys, this is one we pointed out on our live stream this morning. A few folks caught this one short today and did a great job with it. We did an inside day yesterday with a gap down, but one of the important levels that we had today was this one, right? And we provide these levels to our members as well, and all the go-to stocks. So you can see how important this level was here. We had the December low at 292.47. So that was a key level to trade intraday, right? Once we broke down below that. So we are below that right now, and so there's not much other support below except from way back, years ago. And so, but one of the things you can see here on that key level, once we hit the December low, look at this candle here off of the 15-minute chart like that. Nice 15-minute candle right here. And the 5-minute give it even a nicer one for an entry. And they get this beautiful move down here. The length of this candle, 6 points right there off of that on day trade. And then it gave an epic bounce too, which was actually catchable too at the bottom. At least you know where to get out, right? And then it gave you a tweezer bottom and a move to the top. So we'll see. It gave you a little lower shadow today. It doesn't have much below it. So if the market's weak, this one is definitely on the radar to the downside. So good stuff. Yeah, and then Lulu. Lulu, rough day today as well. Nasty lower candle right there. And we got a little bit of support levels like here and here, right? These guys right here, a little congestion, all that stuff. But this thing wants to move your 200-day moving average right there, down there at 204. And then CMG. Not CMD, CMG. Sometimes my fingers don't listen. All right, so CMG, yeah, nasty candle today too. Broke out of the cloud. I mean, you're at some levels right here, some congestion. Major level to get below is right here. This 728 below that level is kind of like that Boeing level right there. So just so keep an eye on that for CMG. Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, Ryan. Microsoft, what's going on? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so Microsoft, let's say, wow, down 12 points today. Like we said, this was the one that kind of started things off last night with the Dow, just like saying Microsoft came out and said, yeah, Corona is going to affect us. So huge volume today. Nasty candle below the channel. So look for this. If the market is weak tomorrow, it could give a push down to the bottom of the cloud there, back down to 155. So keep an eye on that one. Blair Allen, what's going on? Apple, let's take a look. Yep, so Apple's struggling a little bit too. So it broke out of the cloud, so it had an inside day at the cloud. Next major trend line is right here, right? So we could see that's 257 if you guys can believe it, and a couple open gaps below too that correspond with those levels. So if Apple does get weak, it may aggressively attack those levels too. You gotta love it when markets go fast. The only problem with multiple short days in a row like this is the premiums start to get really high. Even Apple is getting really, really high too. It's like $4 at the money, stuff like that on a Thursday. So definitely interesting stuff. mHawk420, what's going on? Always really appreciate your time you put in. Oh, hey, my pleasure. I always appreciate you tuning in. Have we looked at tea lately? Yeah, so a cup of tea, anybody? So AT&T, yeah. So these definitely, the telecommunication stocks, a couple of them popped up on our bearish radar today. And it turns out there was some more news about some investigatory news on these guys in like Verizon. But yeah, big nasty move down on T, shooting star candle from yesterday, closed below a couple major pivot levels right here and below your 200-day moving average, right? So actually it's got a little gap down here that it looks like it might have filled today. But yeah, if it breaks down any farther, your next pivot level is right down there at 34.51. So amazing stuff right here. I mean, if you kind of look at it, it's kind of this extended, like, head and shoulders type pattern, but just really couldn't get over any of these highs. And every time it just kept on putting a lower high, lower high, lower high. And then it finally just kind of broke down here with the rest of the market. So it's good stuff. ZEK, yeah, APT. So APT was, oh, sorry, I put in your ticker right there. So APT, Alpha Pro Tech. This thing has just been on fire. So unfortunately, this thing doesn't have options on it, but it had, it's got, Corona stuff. You got this nice little triangle breakout right here with good volume on this candle. You get the next day, good volume. This day, then huge follow through on this one. So just incredible moves. That thing was active all day today. I think it even got halted a few times, but really, really nice stuff on that one. So keep an eye on it for sure. Intact, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Archibald, what's going on? TTD, yeah. So TTD earnings tonight, I think, or tomorrow morning. We got, earnings tonight. So it came up a little bit here. It's putting a little bit of a bull pennant in after hours. So see if that gets any move to the upside. Not really a significant gap up or anything like that at this point. So it really had a lot of work to do to get over those highs up here at the 323 level. So just keep an eye on it. It's tricky to trade, right? At the crazy volume. Look for see if it does a reversal tomorrow. If it can't get over like the pre-market highs. So definitely keep an eye on that one too. Intact, yeah, APT, yep. So good stuff on APT. Oh, APT does have, sorry guys, this one does have options on it. I apologize, it does have options on it. Just the options are just horrible. They're just horribly, in fact, the options are almost as expensive as the stock itself. So I just remember being untradeable. That's why I was saying that earlier. But yeah, what else? Hold on, I lost you guys. Oh, okay, you took away that one right there. So Ryan, I'll get to that in a second. I see you've got other stuff down there. Ryan Baidu, let's take a look. Yeah, oh yeah, Baidu with earnings tonight too. Nasty candle here. I think they had a couple of beats on like revenue and earnings, but it's just chopping around here after hours today too. So they might have guided rough or whatever the case is. But anyway, nasty candles here too, just kind of breaking down under some levels. Next pivots below here is 1113. So if things get weak on Baidu tomorrow, that we could see some momentum on that one. DAL, yeah. So Delta Airlines and the airlines have been getting just crushed recently, but they did have a big short squeeze move today in all the airlines. So you'd sell. This is common with all the airlines today. So big 15 orb range, huge down move pre-market. So I mean, if you were short on it, good place to take profit after you got out of this double inside 15 up, and then it just squeezed all the way up right here. So a lot of the airlines give these epic reversals today, and then they just kind of drifted down the close because there's nothing really bullish about it, right? Fundamentally, at least news-wise. It was just kind of one of those capitulation type things. So it gave you a little pop right there, filled the gap, and then just kind of ended up closing at the low. So keep an eye on the airlines still too. They're overall pretty weak, right? So yeah, so intact, yeah. So already, it's so cool, man. Yeah. So how about love? Yeah. So the airlines right there. So let's take a look. So similar story with a lot of these ones today. UAL had a big pop today. A lot, I mean, all these sectors were, kind of moving in tandem, right? So you got a nice move up on love today. UAL did the same thing. DAL, so they gave a lot of moves like that. And then, of course, the cruise lines too. RCL. These have been weak, just for just days, right? So, I mean, really, really big moves. RCL is a great moving one, but the options don't really trade well. But Carnival trades pretty well on the options. So, yeah, so we're seeing those type of moves to the downside on them. So, good stuff. And then Triple M, yeah, it just bearish on everything, right? Exactly. So Triple M is actually not a hotel. This one is a kind of a heavy industry type one. They also make they make tape products, but they also make masks, right? For hospitals and for people to use for protective masks. So it is kind of a Corona play, but it's just not getting any move. It even got an upgrade on their mask concept, but couldn't hold up today. So yeah, so it is bearish. So if you're bearish on it, absolutely, there's nothing bullish about the the chart itself. But yeah, something like Marriott, like the hotels, bearish, very very similar moves that you're seeing with the airlines here today, right? Big up moves on like Marriott. What's another one? It used to be H, I believe. Yep. So Hyatt Hotels, right? Very similar stuff here. And then was it HTL, or I haven't traded in it in such a long time. Yeah, Hilton HLT. So again, Hilton too. So yeah. So I mean, generally all bearish. Got a few relief bounces today, but look at that. Totally rejected its 200-day moving average on those. So yeah, great thinking on that. Cool. Yeah, my pleasure. Neil, what's going on? Doing good. Hope you're doing well. PANW. Yep, so PANW just had earnings the other day. Very, very big down move on earnings, and is getting some follow through to the downside on that one. So let's see if it's got any levels that it can contend with right here. I mean, right now, yeah, you got way back here. I mean, a little bit of buying pressure right there, but your next levels down are 169 and then 160. So if it breaks down below the lows here, you might see some moves to the downside on that one. And then NVIDIA. Yep. So Nvidia, wow, this one did it faded the gap today and then just gave it up, right? So let's take a look here. Yeah, so it came back up, filled its gap, and then just worked its way back down with the rest of the crowd today. So it's again, huge move up, right? But then fast move back down, right? So big top right there on Nvidia. Again, it's right at the 50-day moving average. See if it holds that. It's also at a prior trend line right here, so maybe it'll get some help. Go into X dividend a little bit too. Yep, and then BTC. I think you want / BTC here. So Bitcoin futures, let's take a look. Good old Bitcoin hanging in there. So 50 moving average is curling up inside day so far today, and see if it gets over yesterday's highs and kind of work its way up a little bit. And then 200-day moving average right there at 91.36. So kind of keep an eye on that one too. Good. Ryan, think travel stocks have room down? Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so, man. I mean, this thing's not going away, right? We'll see like a couple little funky bounces like we see on like UAL and stuff like that, but like your, EXPE, keeps on getting crushed. A little bit of a relief bounce right here, but not much, right? And then you got the lows right here. TCOM, the Chinese travel company, guys, I don't even know how this thing even gets. Anybody even buys it up at all. It just like gives a relief bounce up. But a little doji right here too off of an inside day. So let's keep an eye out for this one. Earnings coming up too. That's gonna be a tough one to beat on that one. So we'll keep an eye out for that one too. So yeah, definitely room. There's always room to the downside. No, I got you. Yeah, see, I figured what you were talking about. All good, man. Good stuff. Wow, great charts tonight, guys, and great discussion this week. So really appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you guys are new here, definitely click subscribe on YouTube and also hit that like button as well. We always appreciate that. And check out our links in the description. So really enjoyed the discussion this week on when big money moves, and we'll come up with another one for next week. I hope everybody has a great night tonight and has a great trading day tomorrow and a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you guys Sunday night back on the live stream here as we get ready for the market next week. So we're going into March next week, so that should be pretty fun. Let's march into March, guys. So spring is on the way, so looking forward to it. Maybe we'll get some fresh flows in the market and they'll start buying the dip on this one. But in the meantime, just be careful out there. If you don't like shorting, stay on the sides until there's some confirmation that we're working our way to the upside. And I hope everybody does great. So have a great night, everybody, and rest up. And remember your risk first and stay safe so you can stay in the game. We'll talk to you guys soon.